This first lesson will introduce different cameras that can be used for acquiring footage for social media and the pros and cons of each type. So there are 4 different camera options for acquiring footage, including the DSLR, the mirrorless camera, point and shoots, and lastly the smartphone. Each of these has their own pros and cons, but all can achieve a desired result for social media when they are technically understood and operated accordingly. The DSLR, which stands for Digital Single Lens Reflex, is a popular choice for media production for organizations. It offers the flexibility of interchangeable lenses and can produce high-resolution images. Often, these cameras are seen as more professional relative to something like the point and shoot or the smartphone. DSLRs, especially older second-hand options, are a really good place to start for social media photography. They offer great bang for the buck. 2 cameras I have used in the past are the Nikon D7000 and the Canon 7D, both of which can be obtained for between $300 to $400 used and produce great results for photography. The downside to these older bodies is relatively worse video performance compared to newer bodies, particularly on the Nikon side. Popular DSLR manufacturers are Nikon and Canon. Mirrorless cameras are a relatively newer iteration of the digital camera. Mirrorless cameras are usually more compact than DSLR cameras, and many of these cameras often have higher video resolutions than DSLRs. Mirrorless cameras also use interchangeable lenses. However, there is a smaller lens selection compared to the more traditional DSLR. Lenses also tend to be more expensive. Price-wise, for mirrorless cameras, there is also a range depending on new versus used and full frame versus crop sensor, going anywhere from $400 for a used Sony a6000 to cameras in the thousands for something like the newer Sony a7 III. The crop sensor mirrorless camera that these lessons have been shot on is the Sony a6500, which for reference cost around $900 used. Major mirrorless manufacturers include Sony, Lumix, and Fujifilm. Canon and Nikon have recently started developing mirrorless options, which tend to be quite expensive. The third type of mainstream digital camera is the point and shoot. These cameras are often looked down upon for their compact size, but these devices are actually quite powerful. These cameras are limited with their fixed lenses. However, this in turn lessens the downstream costs of purchasing large lens collections. Another downside to the point and shoot is sensor size, which are smaller than their APS-C or full-frame counterparts of the DSLR and mirrorless camera. This smaller sensor size can potentially matter for light sensitivity and also resolution for larger prints, but the latter doesn't really matter that much for social media. Common options for point and shoots include Canon's G line, Sony's RX100s, and Fujifilm's X100 line. Price-wise, premium point and shoots cost on average around $1,000 for the newest versions, but older models can go for much cheaper on the second-hand market. So these cameras can be a good choice as you won't need to invest in interchangeable lenses down the road. The final option that I would like to mention for digital footage acquisition is the smartphone. These devices have come really far, with many smartphones being capable of capturing 4K video content and taking low-light photos with astonishingly great detail. If these are the only devices your organization has access to, don't immediately think that you have to go out to purchase a big, expensive camera to get the results you want. On the flip side, your organization may have access to both traditional cameras and also newer smartphones. If this is the case, it would be wise to consider the technical aspects of each and decide which can produce better results. Often, the video output of older DSLRs is worse than that of the modern smartphone, so being aware of this will allow you to maximize the quality of what you have on hand. To summarize camera types, the point-and-shoot camera and smartphone are ready to be used right off the bat for acquiring content, as they are fixed lens systems. But this is potentially at the cost of operability and image quality depending on your device. The DSLR and mirrorless options will need different lenses for different situations, so this added cost will need to be considered for organizations looking for the best tools for the job. However, as professional tools, these devices are reliable and can produce great results when operated to their full potential. In the next section, we will learn about lenses, classifying the different types and breaking down how to select a lens that will be most appropriate for your shoot.